Hello, good afternoon. You're tuned into Daybreak News with the Guyanese Critic, and I have here with me Mr. Mark Light, who is the president for the Guyana Teachers Union, and he is just out of a meeting with the Minister of Education, and our teachers are very important because they bring up one of the most important resources that we have. They nurture that resource in terms of educating our kids. I'm going to ask Mr. Light a few questions just to get an understanding of where we're going, because a lot of people are asking questions about when school is going to be reopening. Teachers want to know, how they're going to be affected and these kind of things. Mr. Light, thank you for doing this interview with me and bringing clarity to the Guyanese populace. You had a meeting. Was the Minister of Education included? Was she here?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, for having me on our program. But we just had a meeting with the Ministry of Education. The minister led her team along with the permanent secretary and other senior officials within the Ministry of Education. And what was discussed is our state of readiness as Guyanese for the reopening of school. As you are aware, schools are scheduled to be reopened in September under normal circumstances. September marks the beginning of a new academic year. As you are aware, an academic year would run from September to July of the following year. And we are in abnormal circumstances. Nothing is normal. And so this meeting this morning, at the invitation of the new minister, Ms. Guyanana, we discussed the state of readiness of schools across the length and breadth of the land. Coming out of this meeting, the whole idea as to where we are, the union, we were able to detail what infrastructural measures were put in place for the National Grade 6 and the CSEC and CAPE, which was recently written. And we recognize that that would be inadequate for you to bring an entire school population out. So there needs to be more infrastructural development in relation to putting in wash sinks, foot troughs, care packages for teachers, ensuring that we work whether we should do rotation or a shift system for schools. And so the discussion, in the discussion we highlighted that we are not ready for a September reopening.
The Guyana Teachers Union, being representative teachers in general,
Right.
are not.
We have said to the minister, we are not ready as a Guyanese for the reopening of school at this juncture, based on the fact that we have increased numbers being recorded daily, over 10 in the last 4 to 5 days. Over the weekend it was about 30. And they're coming from different regions. And if you're talking about reopening school, you can't just open school for Demran or Borbis or Essequibo. It has to be open for all and sundry. And so we put forward our position that we are not ready for September, and we are highly likely going to be ready for October. So our proposal was for us to look at a November reopening, giving ourselves enough time to put all those outstanding infrastructural developments in place to accommodate learners. At the same time, we also indicated to the minister that we should just look at some of the levels. We know that we don't have control over the national, the CXC exam and the CAPE as well, because that is done outside, that is set outside of there. So we believe that those would be priority grades, the grade 11 and 12 in our secondary schools. And if things get better, then we can begin to ease back into the school system the grade 6 learners in preparation for the national grade 6 assessment.
Now, this has obviously not as the result of anybody's input or shortcoming, but the pandemic, now recognized as COVID-19, coronavirus, has caused the schools to be shut and has had an adverse effect on society in general, the world. Um, Now we are also discussing lengthening that period of time that we haven't been having our kids in the right school process and educated. What is going to be put in place for that period of time to ensure that our kids don't drop back?
Well, yes, it's abnormal times, and Guyana is not the only country that is affected. We have seen some countries try to prematurely bring children back into the learning space, and they had to quickly abort that plan. So yes, there is a gap created since March the 16th. The last day of school was March the 13th. So March the 16th, there has been a gap. Learning hasn't really taken place on a face-to-face basis since then, except for the period where grade 6 and 11 were brought up. What I know for sure as the representative of teachers is that teachers have used their own resources, their own internet connection, their own device, whether it's a phone or a computer or an iPod, to service children. It cannot be said that all teachers would have done that, because some teachers don't have that kind of facility. Many of them cannot afford to put on a plan, or don't have internet connectivity. Some don't have their own devices. So various reasons why teachers did not engage. But I can tell you that a lot of our teachers would have engaged in learning. So we have like WhatsApp being used, Facebook. Some people use Google Classroom. Some people use Moodle. Moodle and Zoom, to name a few, to engage in learning. So there has been some engagement, but it cannot be said that unilaterally that everybody was engaged. So there will be a gap. And so our discussion this morning was to implore on the minister that to bridge that gap, if we are saying that school will not be reopened in September and possibly in October, then we have to find a way to bridge that gap. And our proposal is to look at e-learning, embrace e-learning by providing the support for teachers, which I'm sure, judging from what was discussed, is something that the ministry would want to put in place to help bridge that gap. And that, we all agree that it's needed at this time.
Now, the major discussion here was the pandemic and the reopening of schools. But we have had a political situation in this country and this is directly to you as the president for the Teachers Union, for 5 months. And that has changed. We have a new government. How are you going in? I know you're in a meeting, that means you're being included in things and work is going on. Are you comfortable with this new administration, and do you see hope in being able to work with them for the betterment of our children?
Well, the union has always seen Guyana first. So irrespective of which government is in power, we understand that our mandate is to ensure that learners are serviced. And Guyana can only develop with a proper education system. What makes it a little easy for us is that we worked with Ms. Manichan before. So here's where we would actually picking up from where she might have left off. And there's always been a cordial relationship with the minister. So the union has no qualms as it relates to how to work with education officials and by extension the minister in particular, because we have worked before. So we believe that the partnership that is needed will be established, and we will work for the interests of Guyana.
Mr. Light, I want to thank you very much. I thank my viewers for tuning in, and I'm hoping this has been edifying to you to be able to help you. Mr. Light is the president for the Guyana Teachers Union, and I'm hoping teachers get an understanding, parents get an understanding as to where we're going, and we can all work together to make a better Guyana.